Dracula by Bram Stoker. To everyone who chooses to read or listen, welcome to a journey into darkness. Don't worry, I won't bite. Probably. Chapter 1. Jonathan Harker's Diary. Written in shorthand. Stenography. I am Jonathan Harker, a solicitor from London. I have been sent on business to meet Count Dracula in Transylvania. I decided to keep a journal of my journey and write down everything I experienced. I left Munich on the evening of May 1st and arrived in Vienna early the next morning. As the train moved further east, I felt the world around me change. It was like leaving the modern world and entering a place full of old traditions and mysteries. May 4th. That night, I stayed in Bistritz, a small town, at the Golden Krone Hotel. The people were kind, but when I said where I was going, they looked nervous. When I arrived, the hotel gave me a letter from Count Dracula. In the letter, he welcomed me and told me that a carriage would be waiting for me at the Borgo Pass to take me to his castle. Everything seemed normal, but I still felt uneasy. It was as if I were going to a place I could not understand. The hotel owner and his wife looked afraid when they heard Dracula's name. Just before I left, an old woman came to my room. She looked very worried and asked me in a shaky voice, "Do you have to go? Oh, young sir, do you really have to go?" She was so nervous that she could not speak German properly. She mixed German with another language I did not understand. I asked her many questions to understand what she meant. When I told her that I had to leave for business, she asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" I answered, "It is the 4th of May." She shook her head and said, "Yes, I know that. But do you know what day it really is?" I did not understand. She continued, "Tonight is the eve of St. George's Day. Don't you know that at midnight, all the evil things in the world come out? Do you know where you are going and what you will find there?" She looked so scared that I tried to calm her, but it did not help. Then, she fell to her knees and begged me not to go. She asked me to wait for 1 or 2 days. It all seemed a little silly, but I still felt uncomfortable. However, I had a job to do, and I could not stop now. I helped her stand up and said, as kindly as I could, that I thanked her but had to go. She wiped her eyes, took a cross from her neck, and gave it to me. I did not know what to do. In England, I had learned that such things were not important, but she was so afraid that I did not want to say no. She must have seen that I was unsure, so she put the cross around my neck and left the room. May 5th. The next morning, I got on a coach to the Borgo Pass. As we traveled, I saw that the villagers looked at me with fear. Some of them made strange hand signs as if they were trying to protect me. When we reached the pass at night, a black carriage was waiting. The driver was tall and very strong. He did not say anything, just pointed at the carriage for me to get in. The journey was strange and frightening. The night air was cold. I heard wolves howling in the distance. From time to time, I saw blue lights far away. Each time, the driver stopped, got out of the carriage, and walked into the darkness for a short time. Then he returned and continued driving. Finally, we arrived at Castle Dracula. It was big, dark, and silent. No lights shone from the windows, and it looked empty. I stepped out of the carriage and looked at the castle entrance. I did not know what would happen next. I took a deep breath and walked forward. Chapter 2. Jonathan Harker's Diary. Continued May 5th. I must have fallen asleep in the carriage, because when I opened my eyes, I was already in front of Count Dracula's castle. It was dark, and I could only see a large yard surrounded by tall, shadowy walls. The place was huge and scary, with big archways leading into the darkness. But I had not yet seen the castle in daylight. The carriage stopped suddenly. The driver quickly jumped down and held out his hand to help me. His grip was very strong, almost like iron. It felt as if he could crush my hand if he wanted to. As soon as I stepped onto the ground, he took out my bags, put them beside me, and, without saying a word, got back into the carriage. Then, he disappeared into the night. In just a few seconds, I was completely alone. In front of me stood a huge wooden door, covered with big iron nails and set into a stone archway. Even in the dim light, I could see that the stone was very old and worn by time and weather. I waited in silence, feeling nervous. There was no bell or knocker, and I knew that shouting would not be heard through the thick stone walls. I stood there for a long time, and fear started to grow inside me. Where am I? What kind of place is this? What kind of people live here? I thought. This journey felt so different from my normal life in London. Just as I was about to knock on the door, I heard heavy footsteps from inside. A flickering light shone through the small gaps in the door. Then I heard the sound of chains moving and large iron bolts unlocking. A key turned with a loud, scraping noise as if it had not been used in years. Finally, the great door slowly opened with a long creak. Behind it stood a tall, thin man, dressed all in black. His face was pale, and he had a long white mustache. In his hand, he held an old silver lamp with a small flame that moved in the wind. His face was serious but polite. Then, in perfect English but with a strange accent, he spoke. "Welcome to my house. Enter freely, and of your own will." Yet, he did not move forward to greet me. Instead, he stood completely still, like a statue. I hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. As soon as I crossed the doorway, Dracula suddenly moved forward and shook my hand. I flinched. The Count's grip was very strong, and his hand was as cold as ice, almost like the hand of a dead man. Then Dracula repeated in a low voice, "Welcome to my house. Come freely. Go safely, and leave something of the happiness you bring." There was something strange about these words. Dracula seemed very polite, but his words felt odd. I wondered why he said, "Enter freely," so many times. And why did he say, "Leave some of my happiness behind"? Was this just a polite greeting, or did it have a deeper meaning? I couldn't help but feel that Dracula's voice and handshake were strangely similar to the driver's. Could they be the same person? "Count Dracula?" Dracula bowed slightly and replied, "I am Dracula, and I bid you welcome, Mr. Harker, to my house. Please, come inside. The night air is cold, and you must be tired and hungry." The Count quickly picked up my bags and carried them with surprising strength. I tried to stop him, but Dracula insisted. "No, sir, you are my guest. It is late, and my servants are unavailable. Allow me to take care of you myself." I had expected to see servants in the castle, but so far I had seen no one but the Count. Dracula led me through long stone hallways and finally into a grand room. The room was warm and bright, with a large fireplace burning strongly. In the center, a table was set with food. I immediately felt better. The inside of the castle was much more comfortable than the outside. Dracula pointed to the table and said, "Please, eat as you wish. I hope you will forgive me for not joining you, but I have already dined, and I do not eat supper." I found this strange. Why wouldn't he at least drink something with me? But I was too hungry to think about it much. As I ate, Dracula watched me closely and asked many questions about my journey. May 8th. I woke up and decided to shave. I set up a small mirror and began trimming my beard. Suddenly, Dracula appeared behind me. I gasped in shock. Dracula had no reflection in the mirror. I turned around quickly. The Count was standing right there, but in the mirror, he was completely invisible. At that moment, I accidentally cut my skin. A small drop of blood appeared on my chin. As soon as Dracula saw it, his eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and he lunged forward. His face twisted with an animal-like hunger. I stepped back in fear, but as I did, Dracula's hand touched the silver cross necklace the old woman had given me. Instantly, he froze, and his expression changed. He suddenly looked calm again. Then, without saying a word, Dracula grabbed the mirror, tore it from the wall, and threw it out of the window. The glass shattered into 1,000 pieces in the courtyard below. I stood in shock as Dracula said in a quiet but firm voice, "Be careful how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country." Then he turned and left the room without another word. I started to notice more strange things. I had never seen a single servant in the castle. Dracula never ate or drank. And worst of all, as I tried to explore the castle, I realized that all the doors were locked. The castle stood on a high cliff, and there was no possible escape. Finally, I understood the terrifying truth. I was not a guest in this castle. I was a prisoner. Chapter 3. Jonathan Harker's diary. When I realized that I was a prisoner, fear took over me. I ran up and down the stairs, trying every door and looking out of every window. But soon I understood that I had no way to escape. This feeling crushed all my other emotions. Looking back, I think I lost my mind for a while, like a trapped rat. After some time, I accepted that there was no way out. I forced myself to sit down and think about what to do next. Even now, I still do not know what to do. However, one thing is clear. I must not let the Count know what I am thinking. He knows that I am his prisoner, and he has his own reasons for keeping me here. Trusting him would be a mistake. My only choice is to hide my fears and stay careful. Maybe I am just imagining things, or maybe I am in real danger. If I am truly in danger, I will need all my intelligence to escape. As I was thinking, I heard the heavy door downstairs close. The Count had returned. He did not come to the library immediately, so I went to my room and found him making my bed. It was strange, but it proved what I already suspected. There were no servants in the castle. Later, I saw him through a small crack in the door. He was setting the dining table himself. I silently blessed the kind old woman who had placed the crucifix around my neck, for it gave me comfort whenever I touched it. It was strange that something I had learned was only superstition now brought me peace in this lonely and terrifying place. Midnight. That night, Count Dracula and I talked for a long time. I asked him about the history of Transylvania, and his eyes lit up with excitement. He did not speak like a historian, but like a man who had seen everything himself. His voice was full of pride and anger as he said, "We Seceles have a right to be proud. In our veins flows the blood of many brave warriors who fought like lions for power. Many European races have battled in this land. The Ugric tribe brought the warrior spirit of Thor and Odin from Iceland. Our berserkers were such fearless fighters that people believed we were werewolves. When we arrived, we found the Huns, whose fury in battle was like fire. People feared them so much that they believed their blood had mixed with demons and witches." He clenched his fists and raised his hands as he continued. "Fools! What devil or witch was ever as great as Attila, whose blood runs in my veins? We were conquerors. When the Magyars, The Lombards, the Avars, the Bulgars, or the Turks came to take our lands, we defeated them. When Arpad and his legions swept through Hungary, we were already here, guarding the frontier. And when the Hungarian kingdom needed warriors to fight the Turks, who did they trust? The Szekelys. Us. His voice echoed through the castle walls, and his eyes burned with pride. We were always the first to receive the bloody sword, the sign of war. When the king called for battle, we answered first. But then came the great shame of my people. At the Battle of Kosovo, the armies of Wallachia and Hungary fell under the Turkish crescent. Who took revenge? Who crossed the Danube and brought war to the Turks in their own land? A Dracula! His face darkened with anger. Woe to us! My own unworthy brother, after our defeat, betrayed his people to the Turks. He brought the shame of slavery upon us. Dracula's fists trembled with rage. Then suddenly he smiled, a bitter, cold smile. We, the Dracula family, never forgot our duty. For centuries we guarded the frontier. The Turks say, water sleeps, but the enemy never sleeps. Who more than us received the bloody sword when war came? We stood first in line, ready to fight. His voice softened, but his words still carried the weight of centuries. But now, war is over. Blood is too precious in these days of dishonorable peace. The great battles of the past are now just stories. The Szekelys were once kings of the battlefield. And now? Now, we are nothing but a tale told by the fire. He stared into the flames, lost in thought. May 12th. I will begin with clear and simple facts. Last evening, Count Dracula asked me many questions about law and business. He wanted to know if a person in England could have more than one solicitor. I explained that it was possible, but not always a good idea. He also asked how business could be managed in different places. Even though he had never lived in England, he knew a lot. Later, he suddenly asked if I had written to Mr. Peter Hawkins or anyone else. I told him that I had not. Then, he insisted that I write letters, saying I would stay for a month. I had no choice but to agree. At that moment, I understood that I was a prisoner here. He also told me to write only about business and nothing else. When he gave me paper and envelopes, I realized that he would read my letters. So I decided to write only simple messages and secretly send hidden messages to Mr. Hawkins and Mina. For Mr. Hawkins, I could not clearly say that I was in danger. Instead, I carefully chose words in a way that created a secret message. The letter looked like a normal business note, but it had clues hidden inside. For Mina, I wrote to her in shorthand. This was a special writing system that looked like a secret code. Only Mina could understand it. If Count Dracula opened the letter, he would only see strange symbols that made no sense. This way, Mina would understand the truth and know what to do. After I wrote my letters, I saw Count Dracula preparing his own. When he left the room, I looked at them. Some were unsealed. Just as I was about to read them, I saw the door handle move. I quickly put the letters back and pretended to be reading my book. Just as he was about to leave the room, he stopped for a moment and turned to me. My young friend, let me give you advice. No, in fact, let me give you a serious warning. If you ever leave these rooms, do not, under any circumstances, fall asleep elsewhere. This castle is old and filled with dark memories. There are bad dreams for those who sleep unwisely. Do not forget this. If you feel sleepy, return at once to your own room or these chambers. But if you fail to do so... He did not finish his sentence. He simply moved his hands as if washing them clean of something unseen. At that moment, I understood everything. The only thought in my mind was, could a dream be worse than the terrible feeling of being trapped in this prison? Later, after I went to my room, I felt uneasy. My mind was full of dark thoughts and the air felt heavy. Hoping to calm myself, I walked to the window for fresh air. The open night sky and the wide landscape felt free compared to the dark, closed walls of the castle. For a moment, breathing in the cool air helped, but I still could not forget that I was a prisoner. I looked at the beautiful scenery under the soft, yellow moonlight. The distant hills blended into the light, and the valleys and cliffs looked like deep, black shadows. For a short time, the peaceful night made me feel a little better. But then, as I leaned on the window, I saw something move below me on the left. I looked closely and saw a window. It seemed to be Count Dracula's window. I stepped back slightly, hiding behind the stone wall, and watched carefully. I saw a head appear from the window. It was the Count. I could not see his face, but I knew his neck, his movements, and especially his hands. Then, a terrible feeling washed over me. He did not just look out of the window, he climbed out of it. With his face downward, he crawled down the castle wall like a monstrous creature. His cloak spread around him like giant wings. I could not believe my eyes. At first, I thought it was a trick of the moonlight, a strange shadow, but I kept watching, and it was real. His fingers and toes were gripping the stone tightly, holding onto every crack and ledge in the old castle wall. He moved quickly, like a lizard on a wall. What kind of man could do this? Or was he even a man? The fear of this place was too much for me. I was terrified, more than ever before, and there was no escape. I was surrounded by horrors that I did not even want to imagine. May 15th. Knowing that the Count had gone out, I decided to explore the castle and look for a way to escape. First, I tried the doors in my room, but they were all locked. Finally, at the top of the stairs, I found a door that seemed locked but moved slightly when I pushed it. I forced it open and realized it was not actually locked. Its heavy weight rested on the floor because the hinges were loose. With great effort, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room looked more comfortable than the others. The furniture was old but more elegant, as if this area had once been used by the women of the castle. There were no curtains on the windows, and the moonlight shone through the diamond-shaped glass, lighting up the room. A layer of dust covered everything, softening the signs of age and the traces left by moths. Now, I am sitting at a small oak table. Maybe, centuries ago, a young woman sat here, blushing as she wrote a love letter filled with small mistakes. But now, I sit here writing in shorthand, recording everything that has happened since I last wrote in my diary. It feels as if the modern world of the 19th century and the ghosts of the past have come together in this very place. My God, keep me sane, because I need my mind more than ever. The feeling of safety is gone. As long as I stay here, my only hope is to keep my mind clear, if I have not already lost it. If I am still sane, then the most terrifying thought is this. Among all the terrible things hiding in this cursed place, the Count is the least frightening. To stay safe, I must rely on him, but only as long as he needs me. Great God, merciful God, I must stay calm, or else I will lose my mind completely. Later. When I finished writing in my diary and put the notebook and pen back into my pocket, I felt sleepy. The Count's warning came to my mind, but I enjoyed ignoring it. As my eyelids became heavy, that strange stubbornness before sleep took over me. The soft moonlight relaxed me, and the vast landscape outside made me feel free, bringing peace to my soul. I decided not to return to the dark, gloomy rooms tonight. Instead, I would stay here, in this room where, long ago, women once sat, sang, and lived their happy lives. Here they must have waited with longing while their husbands fought merciless wars far away. I pulled a large couch from the corner and placed it where I could see the beautiful view to the east and south as I lay down. Ignoring the dust, I got ready to sleep. I must have fallen asleep, or at least, I hope I did. But I am afraid, because everything that happened next felt very real and scary. Later, The morning of 16th of May. I was not alone. The room looked the same as before, with nothing changed. In the bright moonlight, I could see my own footsteps where I had disturbed the thick dust on the floor. Across from me, 3 young women stood. They were dressed like noble ladies, moving with grace and elegance. At first, I thought I was dreaming, because although the moonlight shone behind them, they cast no shadows on the floor. They stepped closer and stared at me for a long time before whispering to each other. 2 of them had dark hair, sharp noses like the Count, and deep, piercing eyes that almost looked red in the pale yellow moonlight. The 3rd woman was very fair, with long, golden hair and light blue eyes like sapphires. Something about her face seemed familiar, but I could not remember where or how I had seen her before. All 3 had bright white teeth that shone like pearls against their full red lips. There was something strange about them, something that made me feel both desire and fear. My heart raced with a strange longing, wishing for them to kiss me with those red lips. I hesitate to write this down, fearing that Mina may read it one day and feel hurt, but I must tell the truth. They whispered to each other again, then suddenly laughed. Their voices were soft and musical, but their laughter was strange, cold and unnatural. It sounded like the high, ringing sound of glass when played by skilled fingers. The fair-haired woman tilted her head playfully, while the other 2 encouraged her. One of them said, "Go on. You are first, and we will follow. You have the right to begin." The other added, "He is young and strong. There are kisses for all of us." I lay still, watching through half-closed eyes. The fair woman leaned closer, and I felt her breath on my skin. It was sweet, like honey, but there was something bitter underneath, a sharp, unpleasant scent, like blood. I was afraid to open my eyes, but through my eyelashes I could see her kneeling beside me. She looked at me with a deep hunger. Her movements were slow, almost hypnotic. She arched her neck and licked her lips like an animal, her red tongue shining in the moonlight against her sharp white teeth. She bent lower and lower, her lips moving past my mouth and chin until they hovered just over my throat. She paused, and I could hear the soft sound of her tongue running over her teeth. Her warm breath touched my skin. A tingling sensation spread across my neck, like the feeling when someone reaches out to tickle you but has not touched you yet. Then I felt it, the light touch of her lips against my throat and the sharp points of her teeth pressing gently on my skin. My heart pounded, and a strange, dreamlike feeling came over me. I closed my eyes and waited. At that moment, a sudden force, as fast as lightning, rushed through the room. A terrible presence filled the air. The Count was there. I opened my eyes and saw his strong hand gripping the fair woman's neck, pulling her away with great strength. Her blue eyes burned with fury, her white teeth snapped in rage, and her pale cheeks flushed red. But the Count looked even more terrifying than she did. His eyes blazed with a red fire, as if they held the flames of hell. His face was deathly pale, his sharp features frozen like steel. His thick eyebrows, usually meeting above his nose, now looked like a bar of burning iron. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. "How dare you touch him? Any of you? How dare you even look at him when I have forbidden it? Back, all of you. This man belongs to me. If you interfere with him, you will answer to me." The fair woman did not step back in fear. Instead, she let out a mocking laugh. Her voice was playful and teasing. "You have never loved, Count. You cannot love." The other women laughed with her. It was a cold, soulless laugh that made my blood freeze. There was no warmth or kindness in it. The sound filled me with dread. The Count turned to me and looked at my face. His expression softened slightly, and in a calm, eerie voice he whispered, "Yes, I too can love. You know this from the past. Is it not true?" He paused for a moment, then added, "Very well. When I am done with him, you may have him. You can kiss him as you wish." Then he turned and ordered them, "Now leave. I must wake him. There is work to do." One of the women hesitated and asked in a soft, laughing voice, "Are we to have nothing tonight?" She pointed to a bag on the floor. The Count had thrown it there earlier. It moved. Something was inside. The Count nodded, and one of the women rushed forward to open it. A small gasp came from inside, then a weak, muffled cry. A child. A half-smothered child. The women gathered around it, their faces hungry, their bodies tense with excitement. I watched, frozen in horror. Then, as I stared, they disappeared. There was no door near them. They did not pass by me. They simply faded into the moonlight, dissolving into the air as if they had never been there at all. For a brief moment, I saw their shadowy figures outside the window, and then they were gone. A terrible fear overtook me. My body went cold, my mind blurred, and I felt the world slip away. I lost consciousness.